Today we have a great panel, and I want to introduce my panel before we start the question. The first panelist I want to introduce is Dr. Ben Sumita. Dr. Sumita has been a Theravada, excuse my pronunciation, hopefully I pronounce it right, Theravada monk for over 42 years. Dr. Sumita is originally from Sri Lanka, and he is now living in the United States. He is currently serving in a Buddhist temple in Riverside, California, and he has a PhD in Buddhist study. So I want to start asking the first question to the Buddhist representative, to Dr. Sumita, Dr. Calabrese, and Dr. Gabriel. The question is, Buddhists do not believe in a creator God who initially created everything. And if there's no creator God, how do things get started in the beginning? So any one of you, Dr. Sumita, Dr. Calabrese, or Dr. Gabriel, you can, Dr. Sumita want to answer. Please go ahead, Dr. Sumita.
Okay, thank you so much, Nick, for this wonderful opportunity. Also, I'm so happy to meet these wonderful panelists, first of all. And with due respect to both Buddhism and Christianity, I would like to present about the Buddhist perspective on this issue. In Buddhist philosophy, the idea of a singular, omnipotent creator God who initiated everything is not present. Instead, the focus is on understanding the nature of existence, causality, and the interplay of various factors that contribute to the ongoing cycle of death, life, and rebirth. The question of how things began or originated in Buddhism is approached differently than in some other religious or philosophical traditions. Rather than positing a definitive starting point created by a deity, Buddhism emphasizes the interconnectedness of all phenomena and the concept of dependent origination. Dependent origination or paticca samuppada in Pali or pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit suggests that everything arises in dependence upon multiple causes and conditions. It acknowledges that existence is a complex interplay of various factors and nothing exists independently or in isolation. This understanding extends beyond the linear notion of a singular beginning or creation event. Instead, it illustrates an ongoing process of interconnected causes and effects. From a Buddhist perspective, the question of how things began might not have a single definitive answer because existence is viewed as a continuum shaped by interdependent causes and conditions. Rather than focusing on a specific origin point, Buddhism emphasizes understanding the nature of reality, the causes of suffering, and the path to liberation from that suffering. Therefore, within Buddhist thought, the emphasis is less on the question of how things initially started and more on understanding the present moment, the nature of existence, and the interconnectedness of all phenomena. Thank you.
I see. Okay. Dr. Calabrese or Dr. Gabriel, would you like to add anything to that?
Victor, do you want to jump in there? Please go ahead.
Dr. Gabriel.
You know, Vajrayana has a very different take, but also based on... well, first I want to say that, our conversations are so short. I am also the Buddhist co-convener for the National Councils of Churches Buddhist Christian Dialogue. So please get your church or denomination or university part of that dialogue if you are interested further. That's number one. Number two is happy Thanksgiving to all of you all. And it is also a great gratitude to be in conversation with someone from Liberty University. I always wanted to have interfaith dialogue with Fuller, Azusa Pacifica, Biola, Liberty, and Masters. And so now I've checked off all the lists except Masters.
Okay.
Very glad to be here. I'm not sure whether your denomination is part of the Baptist Confederation or something like that, but we already have a Baptist speaker in our National Council of Churches Interfaith Dialogue. My interfaith dialogue, I'm also the board member of the Society of Buddhist Christian Studies. My article on theological understanding Buddhism and Christian is out. I think it's in the recent issue. I also have another article coming out on Buddhist and Christian masculinities. How godly masculinity in Christian side is different from or the same as Buddhist masculinity. So these are all my side projects. My main projects to teaching chaplaincy. I'm so honored to be part of this conversation. In the Buddhist, as Bhante Sumita has mentioned, Buddhism sees creation itself as a larger part of an eternal, so underline eternal, internal creation, abiding and destruction due to causes and conditions. So there's this large, what we see now has its past, and what is his past, is a bit, what we see as past is the beginning for, so it goes like that in infinitum. I think you see that in the Matrix or something like that, where they put this type of popular, they put the 12 links into popular imagination. So that's one piece. And the other piece that I think Christian theologians miss is this piece that whatever that creates is also part of the creation. So we don't separate a being that creates and then this is their creation. We see the thing that creates and the thing that is created as intertwined, as interdependent. We also, in Vajrayana, that's the main theme, right? Vajrayana sees that we all have a similar nature. If there is an energy that creates, we are part of that energy and we will also go on creating, right? So there's this component.
I see. Okay, thank you. Dr. Kalobisi, do you want to add anything?
Sure. First off, thank you for the invitation to be here, to have this lovely panel, great discussion. Look forward to speaking with everyone and hearing a number of different perspectives. I think both Victor and Venerable Sumita touched on some important points from their different perspectives, or we have three different kind of broader traditions represented here. Myself covering Mahayana Buddhism, everybody doing one. We'll see how well I do. But I think asking the question, about how did the world come to be for Buddhists, broadly speaking, is something of a moot question. The Buddha himself was quite adamant that questions about the metaphysical origins of the universe were not something he was interested in teaching about. He taught that he said that he taught two things: the nature of suffering and its end. Right? That's what he was focused on. And even in discussions of what he talks about the world is, or the origins of the world, he's talking about the origins of our experience, the experiential world, and how that comes to be and ends as a kind of concept that we live with and by which we are harmed. And so he's trying to get us to undermine that kind of world, or loka, in Pali and Sanskrit. Mahayana traditions follow this. I mean, we'll have kind of shared perspectives with both Theravada and Vajrayana views, because I think in some ways that, Mahayana traditions inherit the mainstream Theravada perspective that Venerable Sumita represents, and then also had precedence for the Vajrayana, right? These kind of movements were in some ways, they were coterminous, but also developed out of one another in certain respects, and we're in great dialogue. So Mahayana views about cosmology are somewhat variable, but still the emphasis is there that there's not really a point to knowing about the origins of the universe or why it was created, but to understanding suffering, the nature thereof, and how to eliminate it. And that, comes in various ways, how to, follow the Dharma in various forms. So that's what I've got to say about that.
Okay, all right, okay. So hold up a minute before we get a response from the Christian camp. We have one audience, Mr. Another. Okay, would you please put yourself on audio only mode, because we want to separate the audience from the panelists. Can you put yourself under audio only mode? Do not get on video. Go on audio only. Okay, please do that. You see all the other pictures, they are all audience. We want to separate the two. So please go ahead and figure out how to do that, okay? So back to the Christian camp. Dr. Smith, Dr. Wei, or Dr. Johnson, would you like to respond to what the three Buddhists represent? Okay, Dr. Johnson, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm also very happy to be a part of this and be a part of Nick Lamb's work and to join this group. And this is really my first exposure to Buddhism and learning about Buddhism. I'm from here in the United States of America, and I know a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and Methodists, and that's more my familiar territory. And so listening to you three men, I kind of picked up some things from the first man. He talked about a continuum, and then the second one, a creator and a creation, that they're kind of the one and the same. And as a Christian point of view, our Bible is the basis of our Christianity. And this is a book that is the foundation of everything that we believe and that we live. And it begins right in the very beginning, in the first page, in the first words, that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And so he puts himself in the position of the creator. And then he goes and lists for us in the first 6 days all of that creation. And so, we are miles apart when we look at the creation point of views from Buddhism and Christianity. And so that's what I notice from this very, very beginning and opening statement, that Buddhism and Christianity, there's a great gulf between how we believe things were created. We believe that God created ex nihilo, that he created out of nothing. But we believe that God has always been. He was, he is to come. And we believe that he created everything out of nothing. And so there was nothing before. But God has always existed. So that's basically what we believe in the creation. And then the 6-day, 24-hour period of creation. And then everything was created very good. And that's how we believe the world and everything and all the universes came into existence. So just my first thinking on listening to you men sharing, I can see that there is a pretty wide difference between where we stand biblically on creation.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Dr. Smith and Dr. Wei. Dr. Wei.
Dr. Thomas, you mentioned originally Buddha doesn't actually mind what is the origin and creation. So he actually did not touch on that subject. Did I answer correctly? I mean, did you understand correctly?
That he did not wish to speak about matters of how the world began or how it will end. And part of this is because at least broadly speaking, there's understood to be no particular point at which the universe is caused or ended. Right? It goes on, it goes backwards infinitely, and it goes forwards infinitely. You will scroll and scroll and scroll, to use our modern metaphor, to try to find the end. If you're like scrolling down a screen, you won't find it. It keeps going backwards, and it will keep going forwards. So the point really is kind of moot to say, well, when does it start, or how does it all start? It never started. It never started in one particular place, right? And this is part of what the Buddha understood, but he said they're trying to find these origins and causes of this particular world and metaphysical claims about it is really not what he is trying to get people to see, right? It's not really essential to the path that he was trying to lay down. That's not to say that he didn't have ideas about how the cosmos is or how it functions, right? He had quite an elaborate view there, but we can get into that in a point. I just wanted to respond to your question.
Well,
Thank you.
In that case, you are saying that the original Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, actually did not want to touch of the original beginning of the world or beginning of the universe, and all other theory or philosophy came from other followers, not Buddha himself. Am I correct?
I wouldn't make such a stark difference to say that that for reasons I can't get into in the span of time we have, but this might be another discussion if you want to take it offline. But what I'd say is that there's a Buddhist cosmology, but it doesn't posit a beginning or an end, right? And that really the point in this understanding cosmology is how to understand the nature of our existence, the experiences of suffering we have in it, and how to eliminate those. When you say, it was imported from later on, that's a matter of scholarly debate, hotly scholarly debate. And so I don't want to. Yeah.
That's not what I want to do. Yeah. I just want to understand. Okay. You have different theory. I mean, at this we have three theories of the origin of the universe or the world. You actually present three different kinds of concept, and all these three concepts cannot put together. I mean, you cannot actually make them the same or from the same concept or the start from the same philosophy. It definitely is evolved in the future. After Buddha. I mean, that's what I want to understand. And so it's not trying to debate, it's trying to understand what's happening with different tribe or different denomination of Buddhism, why they have this kind of a development and understanding of the origin or creation of the world. That's the things I want to understand.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Smith, any
yes,
comment?
I think there's some misunderstanding that sort of crept in. I think the three different views are actually the same view. There are three aspects of the same view. Yeah. Okay. And then going back to Dr. Wei's question, it's very much like if we ask a Christian, did Jesus teach dispensationalist theology, or did he teach covenantal theology? So, I think we have all the heads nodding. I teach pastoral theology from a Christian point of view, and also sacramental and Bible theology.
Okay.
Let me yes, Dr. Fred.
Yeah. Dr. Smith, go ahead.
Dr. Johnson is right. We start from very different places here. However, we do share in common what Dr. Sumedho was setting out, the phenomena of creation itself and the interactions that drive the arrow of time forward are I think, understood well both by Buddhists and Christians. And everything that happens, in a sense, depends on everything that happened before, especially immediately before. There are no uncaused events within the system itself. But the real question is who or what began it all. It would be interesting to know what the Buddha would have said to that. He focused on the current phenomena of life as we experience it. But I wonder if he would have said, yes, there had to have been a beginning, because it seems that that's a universally recognized fact. Whatever exists had a beginning somewhere, either within the system or the system itself has a beginning. And we know that an infinite regress of causes is impossible. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, understood that and made that point quite well in his metaphysics, that there is no infinite regress of events. Somewhere something starts. And here's where this becomes important. The universe exists. The universe, therefore, has a beginning and a cause for its existence. Whoever is the cause of the universe, in a sense, owns the universe. In the same way that if I go out into my backyard and build a tool shed, and I hammer and nail, put together the siding, the frame, everything, build a tool shed, it's my tool shed, I own it. The universe is, in a sense, God's tool shed. And while the immediate phenomena of life are captivating, they're engaging, and we have to deal with it, if the universe had a beginning, then whoever began it owns it, and we belong to him. Whoever does or doesn't deal with the question, it is probably the most important question. Whose universe is it? And how do we interact rightly with the universe and with its creator? In a sense, trumps all other questions. So let me commend William Lane Craig. Some of you know him. His Kalam cosmological argument explores the whole question of whether the universe has a beginning, and if so, why it's important. Fascinating book, Kalam cosmological argument.
Okay.
Anyway, it is the question. Sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Smith. So let's go to the second question, and this is to the Christian camp. So the Christians say that there is a creator God who is the sovereign and who is in control of everything. And if God is in control of everything, why are there so many bad things happening in the world? So Dr. Wei, Dr. Smith, Dr. Johnson, would you like to take a crack at it? Dr. Johnson.
I might as well go ahead and go first because these guys have been on the first two panels and give them a little bit of a break. But this question is a question that's been asked down through time. It's not an easy question. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the question here, when you write this question, we believe the Bible describes God as the creator. It is in the opening sentences of the book. For us, it is the main point, not a mute point. And we believe as creator God, it's paramount. And to deny that God does not control everything is to deny and be the end of Christianity. So it's who God is. He has divine attributes. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. He's all present. And this implies that God has ultimate control and that God is actively involved and that he has a plan and that he is working this plan. And at the same time, human beings have a free will. And they are not forced. They are not robots. And they can choose to obey and disobey. They can choose to surrender or not surrender. And that we as human beings are afforded the opportunity to trust God's plan, obey God's plan. But we read in the opening pages of the scriptures of the first human beings, Adam and Eve, and the choices that they made. And so we also believe that God can take things that are negative things and work them out for our good. That comes from Romans 8 and verse 28. Salvation, redemption through Christ, that narrative that Jesus Christ died on the cross unfairly, suffering, laying on him the sins of the entire world, very cruel, very bloody, very gory, yet he did this for humanity. And so God has made the way possible to reconcile sinful man to himself. And that demonstrates his sovereignty, that he's even working in the midst of him being the sovereign and man having free will. And then the personal relationship that we can have with God through Christ, and we can pray to God and have personal experiences with God, that God works in us and God works through us, and that he can work for his glory and we can do for his good. And so how do we get to this point that bad things happen? Well, we have the free will of man, and man makes poor choices. And a person's poor choice can affect you, and it can affect me, and it can affect the family and the community and even a country. And we are harmed by those things, and others are harmed. And then there's the consequences of sin. When we sin, when Adam sinned, through his disobedience, he plunged all mankind into a sinful position. But through the obedience of one, that would be Jesus Christ, we all have the opportunity in Romans 5 to be saved and forgiven for our sin. But negative things also can be a help to us. There are opportunities to grow. There are opportunities of testing, maturing, and developing. But we see these things with our own eyes. We see the evil. I mean, every day on social media or the news, we're seeing terrible, terrible, vicious type things taking place. But ultimately, we believe that God will avenge and will make all things right sometime in the future. And so do we acknowledge bad things happen? Yes. But who defines what is good and evil? We believe that God defines what is good and evil. We believe that God controls. We believe that he's sovereign. But we also recognize that he allows. If he stopped every choice of human beings, then man would have no free will. And so you have both of these things going on at the same time. God is in control, but that he also allows suffering and sin and death and evil. But through Christ, through him, we can overcome evil, sin, and even death. We can be victorious. Even though we die, there will be a future time when things will be set right. But here we are living in this.
Okay, yeah. That's good. Good answer. Thank you. Dr. Smith or Dr. Wade?
Yes, please. Dr. Johnson, you hit the head of the nail, the heart of it, at the cross, and what Christ experienced at the cross for us. Bad things happen, and yet God is the sum of all goodness and all perfection. In our minds, we can't reconcile that. But we are challenged by the bad things we see and by the bad things that happen to us. We're challenged to still, in spite of it, believe in the goodness of God. And the key, I think, is what happens at the cross. Jesus experienced at the cross, really beginning in the Garden of Gethsemane, he experienced all of the pain that anyone in this world goes through. He knew the pain of disappointment, of despair, of loss. One of his disciples betrayed him. Another one denied he even knew him. He felt betrayed. He felt lost. He experienced the whole concept of grasping, of clinging. In the garden, he prays, "Oh, my Father, let this cup pass from me." He knew what it was to cling to life in the face of death, to cling to existence in the face of being basically unjustly murdered. He understood the pain of injustice. He was unjustly accused, condemned by the Sanhedrin for blasphemy, and ultimately by the governor of Rome, of Judea, of the Roman governor of Judea, for insurrection, for fomenting insurrection, making himself out to be a king. He experienced all the pain that we go through in this world: loss, disappointment, frustration, clinging to what we can't hold on to, that which slips through our fingers anyway, every bit of it. He comes to us then in our pain and offers us comfort and mercy. Now, in the midst of this world, whatever pain I go through, and I've gone through some, many of us have, Jesus Christ is there because he has been through it, and he is with me and has experienced it with me and for me. That's mystical. I can't explain how that happens, but I know that it's real. In the end, the answer is wrapped up in God's final answer to this world, which is in the second coming of Christ. Revelation chapter 21 in the Bible, verses 1 through 5. Behold, the dwelling place of God is with men, and he will live with them and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There will be no more sorrow or crying or pain or death, for the former things have passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. This is real, genuine, a real, genuine end to pain. It's a real, genuine wiping away of real tears, taking away of real grief, taking people who have experienced all of the sorrow that life can offer and replacing it with joy and hope and fulfillment in the end. It's not simply a personal experience of bliss. I've gone through pain, but because of discipline or whatever, I now experience bliss. But genuine goodness given to people who are part of his plan, who have come to him in their need and cast themselves upon the mercy of God. I'll end by quoting Julian of Norwich here. All shall be well, she said, and all manner of things shall be well. She says that's what God said to her when she asked him about the problem of evil and pain in this world. Why do we suffer? Why do I suffer? And God says, in the end, all shall be well.
Okay.
And it's a real, genuine wellness. It's not just an inner sense of peace, but a real, genuine wiping away of real tears, real pain, a restoration of what has really been lost, and an experience of happiness and joy that's not just a feeling, but a real community of people who've been restored, and everything they lost, including their lives, having been restored to them. That ultimately is God's answer to the pain of this world. And it begins with the cross and God suffering with us. It ends with joy and us receiving his joy and his goodness and restoration when he gives it to us. Anyway.
Okay, good. The Dr. Wei, quickly.
Yes. One of the most important things for human life is to pursue the truth. So what is the truth? You look at all the bad things of the world, what is truth? And the truth is, according to the scripture, that God created everything. Everything is good. So beginning, everything is good. But why the bad thing happened? That's because God has set up all the rules and regulation, but human being committed sin. The sin come into this world, and the world has been cursed. And so when you look at around the world, you see the curse because of it. That's a bad thing happened. But the bad thing did not created by God. It is by human sin. And so Jesus Christ came to this world, and the Lord of God, he want to solve the problem and take care of the curse. And so in our short life, from this perspective, we only see bad thing. But the ultimate eternal plan is a good thing because God is solving the problem. And so a lot of people say, well, how come I can see all the bad thing? And it is because they only see from the human perspective, only see self-centered viewpoint. They didn't see God's plan, and they didn't see the goodness of God. And so when God is dealing with the whole issue, that he sent his own son, and he loved the world, and he loved the soul, he doesn't want anybody to perish. He wants everybody to repent and then have eternal life. And guess what happened? Man reject God, and because of the sin, and they arbitrarily and turned away God. And the Bible said that all have sinned, come short of the glory of God. And the Bible continues to say, and the wages of sin is death. And so And man make the decision, and then God need to solve the problem. And so God sent his son, and the Bible chapter 6 verse 23 of Rome said, only through the gift of God, through Jesus Christ, there's eternal life. So God gave eternal life to solve our problems of the world. And we have been cursed to death. And God says, okay, you don't need to die, and let me solve the problem. And all the bad things can be resolved by accepting God's rule and God's turn, and to have eternal life. And so the problem is not why there's a creator God and there's a bad thing. It is because men have sinned and men need to take the responsibility. One of the most the big problems of human being is that we don't want to admit that we have sinned, and we don't want to confess our sin. We always want to shift the responsibility and say that the creator God, and here's the problem, not me. Well, that's not the truth. And again, I want to emphasize what is the truth. And if you don't want to find the truth, no matter what kind of theory, philosophy, and all kinds of concept you have, if that's not true, listen, that's not going to help you anyway. The truth is God created the world, men have sinned, curse come into the world because of sin. And sin has to cause the death, and God sent his son to solve the problem. So in the eternity, the world will turn well if we follow God. And
Thank you.
So that's important.
Okay. Any comment from the Buddhist camp? Dr. Sumita, okay.
Yeah, thank you so much
You can mute yourself, Dr. Sumita.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you so much for this wonderful explanation. If a divine being is responsible for creating the world, why is there a lack of control over human actions? Why do detrimental events like wars and poverty occur? These questions prompt a profound inquiry into the nature of the world's functioning and the role of a creator deity in its management. The existence of hardships and conflicts in the world, such as wars and poverty, presents a significant philosophical puzzle over considering the concept of benevolent, all-powerful creator. The prevalence of suffering and injustices raises doubts about a direct, controlling hand overseeing human affairs. One perspective suggests that a creator God access the autonomy granted to humans might mean a relinquishment of direct control over their actions. This allowance for free will could lead to divergent and sometimes harmful choices, resulting in the main manifestation of negative events like wars and socioeconomic disparities. Additionally, the complexity of the world and its diverse systems might exceed the scope of direct intervention by a creator God. Factors like human agency, societal structures, and natural laws operating in the universe could contribute to the existence of suffering and inequality, even if a divine entity initiated the world's creation. Furthermore, some philosophical interpretations posit that suffering and adversity serve as catalysts for growth, learning, and the evolution of consciousness. From this perspective, the presence of challenges and difficulties in the world might be viewed as opportunities for individuals and societies to learn, evolve, and cultivate empathy and compassion. Overall, I would say the simultaneous existence of a world created by a divine entity and the prevalence of suffering and negative occurrences raises profound questions about the nature of divinity, human agency, and the purpose of such adversities in the broader context of existence. These questions contribute to drive philosophical inquiries into the complexities of the world and the potential roles, if any, of a creator deity in the unfolding of human experiences. Little contrasting to the Buddhist perspective.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Karublisi, you want to add something? Unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I definitely see gulf and contrast between the Buddhist views and the Christian one that's been presented here. Of course, I think we're going to kind of flip this question, so I won't try to go too in depth. But for Buddhists, the mechanism by which we think about moral action broadly is karma. And karma sometimes gets described as cause and effect, but that's not quite true. It's that causes have, or actions cause rebirth. That's what it means. Or actions cause further actions that happen in different lives. And this is kind of the way by which Buddhists think about moral agency. That karma is deeply individual. That it's, there's, kind of continuum of persons over time through different streams of consciousness and material embodiments, right? And that these are generated one by one by the karma that's created through various lives. And so what's seen as responsible for a person's position in the world, say if they're lowly, if they don't have a lot of money, if they don't look very good, if they won't make a lot of money, traditionally speaking, this is thought to be the result of one's karma. However, I think contemporary Buddhist interpretations tend to lean away from saying that people's inequalities are due to spiritual responsibilities. However, it's understood that one's situation in life has to do with prior actions. However, one's not simply determined by those. They do have a degree of freedom in their choices, how to react to their karmic situation, how to understand the nature of suffering and begin to liberate themselves from the entrenched views that have been created and molded over infinite number of lifetimes, right? And begin to kind of cut the three, or purify themselves with the three taints, or what do you call them? Poisons, greed, anger, and delusion, right? So it's a very different understanding of, soteriology, right? I guess that's what my broad point would be, is there's a very different soteriological frame by which, the existence of bad conditions, evil, is explained. I'll let Venerable Sumita and Victor say more.
Okay, Dr. Gabriel. Dr. Gabriel, you want to say something? Unmute yourself. Thank you.
I think Bhante Sumita and Tom have already given a very great answer. In Buddhism, this is not a different answer, this is just saying the same answer. So in Buddhism, there's no such thing as a question of evil, because we know where it comes from. So instead, there is a question of how do we deliver the... so like what Tom says, it does not become a question of soteriology. It is a question now of pastoral theology, because then we have to convey that compassionately, and that is what Bhante Sumita and Tom have spoken about. How do we deliver, and how do we deliver that message with compassion, with an understanding of a person's situation and their worldview. Okay, that's it.
Okay, all right. So this is going so well, but it's taking too much time. I think we only have time for maybe one more question. And I have four, but we cannot do that. But this is so much more valuable in my opinion, because we have such great...
The best interfaith dialogues that are in the country are the ones that have met 20, 30 years. Yeah, so, Nicholas, don't feel bad. Yeah, okay, it's not 20, 30 years.
I want to go ahead and ask the last question, and this is to the Buddhist camp. if there is no creator in Buddhism, and we know that in Buddhism there is samsara, a process of birth, death, and then rebirth, and this is a mega large project because every single being, God, demigod, human, animal, ghost, hungry ghost, and hell being. Every single one is subject to this. This is such a major project. You probably need the most complicated computer to run this. So if there's no creator God, can you tell us who is running this extraordinary, complicated, massive, mega project? Dr. Semita, I see that you're smiling. You want to help us understand this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Buddhism, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, known as samsara, is not overseen or controlled by a singular deity or external force. Instead, it operates based on the principles of karma and dependent origination. And we mentioned here repeatedly, karma, the law of cause and effect, plays a pivotal role in the cycle of samsara. It is the accumulation of intentional actions that influence future experiences and lifetimes. Each individual has actions, intentions, and thoughts create karmic imprints that shape their future existence within samsara. The concept of dependent origination explains that all phenomena arise due to interdependent causes and conditions. Within samsara, beings continuously move through different realms or states of existence based on their karma and the mental and emotional states they generate. For example, if someone does a good karma, that person can be born in a better realm, heavenly realm, or Brahma realm, or divine realm, or if they do something bad, unwholesome, they might be born in a lower realm, like animal realm, or hungry ghosts, or whatever. The operation of samsara is not governed by a central authority figure, but is a result of the natural law of cause and effect, perpetuated by the choices and actions of sentient beings. Each individual's karmic imprints determine their experiences and the realm they are reborn into, whether it is the realm of gods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, or hell beings, or other states of existence. So I also would like to say, in Buddhism, the God is karmic. It is simple God, not capital creator God. We do have gods, but they are karmic gods. And their existence is not permanent. Ultimately, the cycle of samsara continues based on the ongoing actions and intentions of sentient beings, with no external deity or entity overseeing or managing this process. The teaching of Buddhism focuses on understanding this cycle and seeking liberation from it by breaking the cycle of karma and attaining enlightenment or nirvana, which lies beyond samsara. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Calabresi, you want to add something? Okay, unmute.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Please go ahead.
So what I wanted to add is that there might not be a particular deity who's in charge, but I do think that there's something of a figure who we might think of as very important to the goings-on of samsara, which is a figure named Mara. Mara, the term, is related to the Latin, like mort or death, and so has a connotation both in Buddhist thought of both death and desire. So he kind of in some ways embodies the engines that drive samsara as a divine being, right? He exists in one of the highest heavens. and kind of oversees what's going on beneath him. And when the Buddha is on the night of his enlightenment, getting ready to have his realizations in the 3 watches of the night, Mara challenges him. He goes down to the earth to Jampadvipa, where the Buddha was in the very center, and challenges the Buddha to say, who are you to achieve enlightenment? Who are you to break out of the realm of samsara? And so the Buddha, in recalling his previous lives, asked the earth to witness for him. That's the famous part of the story where the Buddha touches the earth, and the earth itself, priti, calls out and explains, this person is justified. They shall become enlightened. And, that kind of scares away Mara and his armies, and the Buddha goes on into his enlightenment. And then, so Mara figures quite importantly throughout Buddhist literature as a sort of adversary figure, a tempter or doubter. There's important pieces in early Buddhist literature called the Theravada, the verses of the feminine elders, where the Mara tempts these female monastics, and they rebuke him easily. But he's not all inherently bad. He has some moments where he actually comes to the Buddhist side. So it's kind of expressing the ideas of impermanence. He's not like the devil. He's not just a permanent adversary, but that he's a more ambiguous figure that's himself bound up in samsara, but has some sort of authority or control as a highly divine being, and so challenges the Buddha in some ways and challenges his followers as well.
Okay, so Mara, Mara is one personality that has a role in it. Dr. Gabriel, do you want to add something? Dr. Gabriel?
Nicholas, do we? This is the last time we are speaking, or is there another panel, another round?
This is it. This is the third one.
Oh, okay.
So maybe down the road, if everyone wants, we can
do
always.
another one. Okay.
Yes,
So maybe I just say, for me, the question is the same, like how Venerable, like Bhante Sumita has answered. We posit karma. So it's very much a clock without a watchmaker type of scenario, right? I think everyone's nodding. I want to appreciate Dr. Wei for always bringing us to the truth. Dr. Wayne for your scriptural familiarity, and Dr. Fred for always bringing back to the mystical and the emotional. I think you and I have a lot of. I have a near-death experience, and of course I didn't see Jesus, but I experienced the Buddhist truths. So I want to thank you, and I don't want to leave you hanging. So in the chat,
Unmute, please unmute, Dr. Gabriel. Dr. Gabriel, unmute. Okay.
So you mentioned, Dr. Fred, you also mentioned how Aristotle said there must be a beginning. So the Indian philosophers always, the other way, they say there cannot be a beginning. So the concept I already put on the chat is called anadita. And then you can research more. So we see that I always tell Nicholas that we come from different, these traditions come from different cultures, and different cultures ask different questions. So, maybe if the Buddha, Siddhartha, right? Siddhartha lived in the Middle East, we won't have, like in the Buddhist scripture, there is no going into the desert for 40 days. There's no desert, right? Right? And instead, there's monkeys, there's trees, there's lots of mango. I mean, if Jesus saw a mango, but there's no mango. In Buddhism, there's a lot of mango similarities, and the mango appears in Buddhist philosophy a lot. So thank you everyone for your presence. I'm so touched. I hope we can meet in more national forums. So that's
okay.
it. And happy Thanksgiving again.
Thank you. You too, Dr. Gabriel. Quickly, any comment from Dr. Wei, Dr. Smith, and Dr. Johnson?
I'd like to raise a comment. One of the questions, Dr. Sumita, as you were laying out the karma and dependent origination so well, the question, you said no central authority is present. It runs by the law of cause and effect. But a law requires a lawgiver. And I think Dr. Calabrese helped us here by bringing Mara into the picture. Because Mara is outside the wheel. Mara is grasping with the pictures. I know maybe the pictures are metaphorical or something, but it almost seems to me supposed to be biting it, you know. But he's outside the wheel, which indicates that somewhere, maybe intuitionally, within certain strains of Buddhism, there's a recognition there must be a lawgiver, there must be someone who runs the thing, because it can't run by itself. It's not like these Google cars or driverless car, which don't work so well from what I hear. If there's not a driver driving it, then it doesn't work so well. And I'm not sure Mara's the best driver. But if there's no central authority, there can be no law, it seems to me, is a logical thing. And Dr. Samita, you've heard Dr. Calabrese and you've heard all of us. What do you say to the question of law requiring a lawgiver? I'd really like to know.
So Mara is also inside the system. He is not excluded. And I think Mara is just like Satan in Christianity, you know. And also Mara is the other side, the negative side. Like even all of us, when we meditate, for example, we get bad elements and bad thoughts, negative thoughts coming up. And for example, the Maras were not physical sentient beings, but were inside, you know, the thoughts, the intentions, the temptations that we have.
Yes.
So eventually we are all in a kind of circle. If you talk about a circle, we can find a beginning point or an end point. That is a circle. So the samsara is a circle, and so it is said like ignorance, for example, and also the craving. These are the two major links of the 12 links, and so everything can be mutually helpful to each other.
Yeah.
This cause and
mutually
effect.
dependent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why is Mara represented outside the circle? He's behind it. He's holding on to it.
No.
That's really a puzzle.
He's not outside. Just like in our society, there are like gangsters, there are like bad people. They are also inside the circle. You know, when they are doing good, they might be born in bad realm. I remember like Venerable Moggallana, for example, it is said he was a Mara before. Even those very powerful devas and brahmas, they can live longer, they can live so long that they feel like they are like everlasting, and they feel like they are like creator gods. They see the world systems appearing and disappearing, so they have that delusion that they are creator gods. But they have to also come down sometimes after their karmic energy is over. So I think in Buddhism, like for example, the Kalama Sutta gives such a wonderful explanation of the freedom of thought. You know, we talk about freedom of speech. The Buddha talked 2,500 years ago about freedom of thought. And here he talks how we humans have the capacity, you, me, everyone here, have the capacity to become a Buddha. So once we are kind of in a whirlpool of samsara, and we have to come out of this, finding a way to decode. So the Buddha found that formula to decode this samsaric circle. That's how he found the Four Noble Truths and dependent origination. That's where he was enlightened, and following his instructions, many other millions of other sentient beings were able to liberate themselves from the samsara.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Dr. Wei, you want to... I see that Dr. Wei and Dr. Johnson raised their hand. Dr. Wei.
in the social study or man pursuing the truth, that we only can observe a period of time. And because of our lifetime is so short, we only can get certain information and factors. Now, no offense, Buddha is also a human being. He can only observe certain facts and certain information. And so he cannot actually know all the truth and all the facts and all the reality. And so, for example, if a medical doctor is trying to do the operation and trying to cut the tumor, and a person view from this particular standpoint and saw that the man is suffering, and so he observed and with all the details and describe how the man suffered, and then he make the decision that the man suffered and the doctor cannot heal the man. But then the reality is the man left, but the scene continued, and the doctor continued to cut the tumor, and the tumor's out, and after a period of time, the man healed. So God is the one who created time and created the universe, and he is the one who knows all the truth and all the facts and all the situation and information, and he is the one who can give us the truth and give us the answer. And from human perspective, we see men suffer and all kinds of systems, and so we need to find the resolution, and the resolution from human concept may be a very nice and excellent system. But yet, they forgot there's a creator God. And so if the truth is there's a creator God, and then he is the one supposed to give us all the truth. And no matter how we think is logical, and how our theory or faith is very excellent explanation, but then on the bottom, in the end, we still need to ask, is that the truth? If that's not the truth, no matter how well the system can run, how nice it can explain, but then that's not true. And therefore, it will be difficult. For example, in our life, we want to pursue truth, but then if a person who said that I'm a good person, but internally he has a very bad and evil intention, so the goodness is not rooted in the truth. The goodness can be bad. So the fundamental things we need to pursue is, what is the truth? And is this a creator God? If this is a creator God and he created everything, and when he revealed to us this is the truth, then you and I have to make a decision whether we accept whatever God revealed to us, or we come up with our own idea. And again, no offense, from human philosophy and whatever. But then in the end, it may not be true. And if that's the case, then that will be a very tragedy for human race. So that's what I want to do.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes, I was just listening to the continuous process of the birth, death, and the rebirth. But in Christianity, there's exclusiveness. And Jesus makes these very exclusive statements. And so either he's right or he's wrong. And he said, you must be born again. And so ours is physical birth, and then we need to be born again, spiritual birth, and then we die. And the Bible says after this, the judgment, and there's a heaven or a hell for a person to go to once physical death takes place. And so when we look at this continuous process here and what we read about in the scriptures, it is, once again, a great gulf is between the two. And so Jesus said, you must be born again. And then Jesus said also that I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no man can come to the Father but through me. And so these exclusive statements, we cannot get around those. If we move those, then you can move anything. And there is no truth. And so the Bible teaches and Jesus speaks with exclusive terms. And so that's what makes what I'm listening to today, what I'm learning today, and I appreciate all of you men and the things that you're sharing. The continual process for us is that we need to be born again. And that born again only takes place when we receive Christ as our Savior, receive the forgiveness of our sins, and we need to do that while we're living. Because when death comes, then comes the judgment. And if a person has Christ, he will get to, his physical body will go back to dirt, but he will then be able to be with God. And without Christ, then he's doomed to a devil's hell. And so those are pretty clear teachings in the scriptures. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think we have to bring this to a close, and I just wish we can continue for another 10 hours. And I want to thank all panelists for this wonderful discussion. It's so eye-opening, educational, and I hope all the audience and anyone interested in these two religions can be benefited by that. And I want to again thank the panelists, Dr. Wei, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Sumita, Dr. Calabresi, Dr. Smith, and Dr. Gabriel for your time. And I also want to let you know that this will be uploaded to a YouTube, and I will send to each one of you the link so we can watch it and use it at your pleasure. And today we have 5 or 6 or 7 audience, but we just don't have time for them to ask questions. So sorry about the audience, and maybe next time we can. So thank you everyone for your participation, and have a good day. And I will end the panel. Bye-bye. Have a great Thanksgiving. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay. Bye-bye.